why do you feel that only 30% of family businesses survive and scale up to such a level?
First generation builds it. Second generation expands the business or scales it up to another level basically. And third generation destroys the business.
With a network of over 1500 branches and 60 plus hubs, how do you maintain operational excellence and service?
We have more than 5,000 people and drivers working for us. If I were to give a one-word answer, it would be professionalizing. We want to grow organically because India is a very rewarding industry to be in right now.
Sustainability is the new buzzword in logistics, right?
Well, logistics is a very high pollutant industry. We work with 1 lakh clients. If we are charging a customer 2 rupees extra per kg, they will definitely not pay us. They will say, we don't care about an EV. That's a good thing that you want to do, but it should not impact their P&L.
What are the major trends shaping the future of logistics industry in India?
Now in India has grown up at least 5x, in the last 2 to 3 years, I would say. It's poised to grow at approximately $20 billion in the next 2 years from now.
You are running a 2,000 crore company. What do you do to stay mentally, physically, emotionally fit?
There's something called Vipassana which I had done, a couple of years back. It is one of the oldest meditation techniques.
5 business categories where you see high potential for building a profitable company.
I would say defense definitely is one for sure. I'm seeing a good traction in IT manufacturing as well.
Only 30% of family businesses in India survive the second generation. But VTrans Logistics, they've hit 2,000 crore without a single rupee of VC money. Today, I'm joined by Jay Shah, Executive Director and from the promoter family of VTrans Logistics. We talk about how legacy businesses scale, survive succession, and stay relevant in a fast-changing Indian market. From building across VTrans, VExpress, and VLogis to staying profitable, unfunded, and future-ready. This episode is packed with real talk on family businesses, growth, logistics, and what it really takes to build for the long run. Let's get into it. All right. Hi, Jay. Welcome to Level Up Season 3. Pleasure having you. And we've been talking a lot on WhatsApp, etc. And it's nice to finally meet you and have you on this show. I'm going to get a lot of insights into how to run a legacy family business, how a third generation founder or a promoter can scale up what his or her father and grandfather has already built. Those are the key aspects that I want to cover in this podcast. Let's start with the first question.
Pleasure is mine, Devansh. Thank you for reaching out and thank you for setting this whole podcast up. So yeah, let's get going.
Yeah. So first question for you is that VTrans, being a legacy business, right, is now doing a turnover of probably 2,000 crore, right? But why do you feel that only 30% of family businesses survive and scale up to such a level? What are the core things that you feel?
So mainly what happens in a family business, I'll tell you, there's a very famous saying which goes by, the first generation builds it. The second generation expands the business or scales it up to another level basically. And third generation destroys the business. It's a very common, notion in the entire family business world, I would say. What happens is when you say 30%, of businesses fail in India, this is what you asked me, right? In general.
For a family business.
For family
coming
business.
to third generation.
Yeah. What happens is the focus, of the third generation. By the time the business is got into the third generation, that means it has survived at least 50 years. 40 to 50 years, ballpark basically.
Correct.
Trends have changed. In today's world, the technology with the use of the AI, machine learning, with the use of, say, the way the startups are disrupting the industry as well. So no business is, foolproof in that sense. So what was started by a first generation and second generation, the time has completely evolved.
Correct.
Right now the generation gap is narrowing. What used to be 20 years came down to 10 years. Now it's 5 years. I think every 5 years, especially after COVID, things are completely changing now. The dynamics have completely evolved. So for the third generation or the next generation to really keep up with the traditional business that was started by their fathers, their uncles and all, is very difficult and very complex to, carry forward the legacy, basically.
Correct.
Up until if you don't, really scale up or really are, focusing on the current trends and riding the wave, it's very difficult for you to, scale up and to sustain yourself in the market. Because there are startups out there who are constantly looking to disrupt the legacy businesses, in that sense. We've seen, a lot of D2C startups, really scale up. Either they've been acquired by the legacy company or the legacy companies have, perished because of them.
Correct.
So that's a very big factor, I think.
Nice, interesting.
Hi everyone, a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors and partners who make this show Level Up possible. First off, No Filter Juice, which is your daily dose of pure, unfiltered goodness with 100% real fruit juice, zero added sugar, no preservatives, and no artificial concentrates. Every sip is packed with authentic flavor and nutrients. Plus, it's served in eco-friendly glass bottles. Good for you and good for the planet, starting at just rupees 159. No Filter is the healthiest way to fuel your day. Click on this link below to purchase your bottle now. Our second sponsor is Titus Footwear. It is a brand built on legacy, quality, and innovation. From sturdy work boots to stylish sandals and cozy slippers, Titus has something for everyone in the family. Especially if you are a child going to school, this is a brand known for its footwear for school children. Affordable, durable, and always in style, Titus lets you walk with confidence starting at just rupees 299. Click on the link below to purchase your shoes now. I would like to thank our growth partner Growth OS and our venue partner Let's Work.
What mindset differences do you feel is there between a US family business and an Indian family business in terms of scaling and surviving?
So I had a chance to go to the US, so I studied entrepreneurship from Babson College.
Okay.
And we've been taught, in our master's program, in our MBAs, in the US, is that the core difference between a US-based family business and an Indian family business is in India, I would say. I'll start with the Indian family businesses. It's the values and the core values that, we have been taught and been ingrained into, basically.
Correct.
Is something which is, about just looking to sustain the business, to follow the ethos of the family and, run the way the families have run. In US, the vision is slightly more broad, I would say. I'm not saying India, we don't have a broad vision. US, they are very open to selling of the business also. If they see an opportunity with a possible M&A or a possible private equity coming in the business, they'll be very much open to that idea.
Yeah.
And India is still more conservative, in that sense.
Yeah.
A simple example I'll give you: how many family businesses which you would be knowing, which are expanding outside India, compared to the US businesses coming into Asian
Different
markets or
geographies.
European markets or the entire world for that matter, would be 100 times more, if not more than 100 times in that sense. So here the buck stops at Indian markets. We've been told, that India is a market. Let's grow in India. Let's expand in India, of course. But beyond India, there are a handful of startups or like handful of family businesses. In that sense, that's not the case in the US markets. In that sense, and maximum capital is also in the US. Which have been deployed. The biggest P's, the biggest bankers also are mainly in the US in that sense. So I would say mainly the access to capital also is far more in the US in that sense. So that broadens your vision.
But do you feel now people, especially family businesses in India, are evolving in that sense that okay, they should look for capital from abroad investors or from Indian VCs or PEs, etc. Get in professional CEOs or CFOs, like there has to be a proper professional team, that is their management team, and then run it?
So we are seeing a good change for sure, especially in the last 10 years, I would say. There have been an ample amount of investments also from the FIIs or from the PEs and other bankers as well, private bankers, of course, in the family businesses. The classic case being Haldiram's. Traditionally run family business, they are like as traditional as it can get. Although they are a big brand, they're a legacy company, more than legacy, I would say, in that sense.
Correct.
They had 3 different families running the Haldiram brand name. One based in Nagpur, one based in Delhi, and one based in Calcutta. Now we are seeing a good infusion of a private equity firm coming into Haldiram, which led to a merger of the Nagpur and the Delhi business as well.
Correct.
So that means it's going in the right direction in some way or the other.
Getting more organized.
Getting more organized, in that sense. Second thing is, we are seeing a lot of family businesses, maybe the next generation, setting up family offices in Dubai. They're moving out of India, setting up their own business, getting an NRI status also, and moving in Dubai and managing the entire show out of Dubai as well.
Okay.
There are different reasons to it, you know. Could be from a taxation point of view, could be from, you know, ease of business doing point of view as well.
Okay.
The point being now they also trying to professionalize and be out there in the market as well. You know, because their previous generations have, you know, made generational wealth for them. Now for them to manage this wealth, you know, they're trying to see how they can collaborate with different startup investments and, you know,
Different partners or whatever.
yeah, different partners as well. So that's there
Which
is
will
a
help
change
them
for
to
sure.
preserve and grow their wealth in a steady manner.
Absolutely.
Rather than just
absolutely.
burn it.
Absolutely, 100%. So yeah,
Got
that's
it.
happening for sure.
Got it. Are all family business owners like Lala types, or this is just a stereotype? It used to be earlier. And how is this perception evolving in the minds of other people when
Yeah.
other people look at a family business?
Yeah. See, India is predominantly a family business run country in that sense, you know. So that way, it's still an unorganized, you know, industry as a whole in general. So to answer it, yeah, most of them would be, you know, like a Lala type business in that sense. Also a reason, you know, why Kiranas are failing, because Kiranas are also a Lala based family business in a way.
Correct.
In that sense. Now, I'm not comparing the family, like a legacy family to a Kirana, but the ethos are the same. It's still within the father and the son, you know.
Correct.
The kind of things you would see on the internet. You know, a shopkeeper is there, he's put up a photo of his grandfather in his own shop, you know. The kind of, you know, photo that we see on the
Correct.
internet, that's circulating in the, on
Correct.
the internet.
Yeah.
So that way, it is a traditionally run business. But with the ethos or with the Darwin's theory, if you don't evolve, it's the survival of the fittest. It's as simple as that, you know.
Correct.
That's the rule of the nature. If you
Correct.
don't evolve with the current trends and the technologies in the market, you will perish for sure. So we are seeing a change for sure in that sense. Not only in our family business, but in general also, things are evolving for sure. And if you don't evolve, you will be perished for sure. So yeah.
Got it. You know, should the next generation, like generation of yours, or you know, maybe younger than you also, work outside before joining their family business, or what would be your take of, you know, for a next generation, a third gen person coming in to take on the leadership?
So that's a very interesting question. So in our family business at VTrans, over the years we've also, you know, created a hierarchy, family hierarchy, come family constitution as well, which actually entails that a new entrant into the family business has to get a work experience outside. If they plan to join the family business, of course. Otherwise, they can do you know,
whatever
as
they
per
want to
their, you know, whims and fancies.
Correct.
But if you want to join the family business, it's very much required for you to work outside in a similar industry. It doesn't have to be a direct competitor, you know, in that sense. But to get an experience as to how, you know, the outside world operates, basically.
Correct.
So for me also, before I joined the family business, I was working in a multinational company, you know, in one of the biggest logistics companies in the world.
Okay.
So that gave me a lot of insights as to how the world operates, you know, at a larger scale. Because working in a multinational, which is anyway a far bigger company than us, having a global exposure really helped me to also think about certain things which we don't do in a family business, you know. Something on the tech part, something on the how do we work with a global client as well, you know. If the client, like say for example Nike is working with this particular MNC, they are working with this MNC in multiple countries. So how does the global contracts are shaped in India when they work with us in India? This was when I was working for this multinational company. So that way we get a lot of insights and good exposure also.
Got it.
In that sense. So
Got it.
I feel it's very important for any new gen entrepreneur to first get their hands dirty, you know, to put it in a very simplistic way, to get their hands dirty in a company outside, get the learnings, and maybe, you know, get the experience into their family business. It's very important for sure. Could be a startup also.
Yeah, could
It's
be a
not like
startup
has
also.
to be a, you know, a legacy company or a competitor.
Yeah.
But even if they work in a similar industry in a startup, which is a fast growing startup, for example, that can really give
But the
them.
idea being to work in a similar industry in which the family business operates.
It's very important. It will give you an invaluable experience. Forget about the stipend and the salary. That's just a part of, you know, keeping yourself motivated to work for that
Correct.
company.
Correct.
Otherwise, like definitely, it's, you know, very important for sure.
Got it. Okay. So VTrans operates multiple business wings, right? VTrans, VExpress, VLogis. How do you decide which segments to double down on or prioritize for growth?
So the way we function also at VTrans is, like you mentioned, we have 3 verticals, you know, and these are 3 fast growing verticals also, because we run parallelly with the Indian economy, to put it that way, in a very simple way. Because logistics is the backbone of any economy in the world.
Correct.
So we have three verticals primarily: transportation, express, which is a courier business as well, and warehousing, which is a third-party logistics business, or contract logistics is what people call. So we are doubling down mainly into the express and the warehousing business of us.
Okay.
Transportation, of course, it's a giant, for us right now. So us to really see a multifold growth in transportation is not so easy, for us to.
But that is already having a giant portion of your business.
Yes. So
And
now
then B2B, which is
absolutely.
which
So
is
now
big.
with the management also, we're focusing a lot more on growing our express division and our warehousing division, which is a far more organized industry by itself,
Correct.
basically. So
Correct.
express is growing right now. Our express division is currently growing at 25 to 30% CAGR.
Okay.
So we are doubling
Crazy.
our revenues every 3 years, basically. And warehousing for us is growing at 55 to 60% every year. So
Wow.
because the industry is very rewarding also at that point in time. So more businesses are looking at, partnering with express companies in general to move their goods in a faster way and to also consolidate their inventories into different warehouses pan India. So that means that we are getting more businesses also from our existing clients as well. So our incremental growth also for our express division and for our warehousing division is mainly coming from our existing customers.
Okay. And when you say express business, that is like a retail courier kind of a company.
So in Express, we have two sub-verticals. One, our main business in Express is our B2B Express.
Okay.
So where we work
Which is for a business.
Yeah, which is for a business. It's a B2B shipment, which is more time sensitive and time bound cargo movement.
Correct.
And we also have a e-commerce division within our Express division. So what e-commerce does is we have our own fleet of bikers, which is our foot on the street. We have bikers in approximately 30 to 40 cities in India, having a strength of 4,000 plus bikers. And we are doing more than 2 lakh deliveries in a day, working with the likes of Flipkart and Amazon, the main two customers for
Correct.
us, basically. So we do a forward last mile delivery for them, and we also do cash on deliveries, we do returns as well for them. So that's our main, business in the e-commerce side of it.
Got it. Very good. Interesting. So, with a network of over 1,500 branches and 60 plus hubs, how do you maintain operational excellence and service, consistency at scale?
One word, if I were to give it, like if I were to give a one word answer, would be professionalizing. Without professionalism, we cannot scale up to a level, where we've reached over the years, over the last 70 years, I would say. Because we started off, with the first generation coming in, starting out the business, with a few pin codes or with a few, locations, which is between Bombay and Gujarat in that sense. We've scaled over the years, we professionalized the entire function of a business as well. So when I say functions, would be our sales and marketing, operations, IT, finance, HR, and receivables also for that matter. So every function for us has been professionalized. We have different CXOs for each function.
Wow.
So that means our job as a management is to mainly manage those people.
Those CX.
Which is the most important job in a business, whether you are a startup or you are a legacy company like us.
Yeah.
If you can't manage the people, then you will be just focusing your entire time and energy into day-to-day activities, which you don't want to. You want to further scale up as well. Look at the next 15
Look at
years,
the growth, yeah.
how the growth is for a company.
Correct.
Exactly. So just manage the people, get the best people to work for you, let them run the show. So yeah.
True. So VTrans is, of course, bootstrapped, famously unfunded, and has grown organically. So there is no equity funding from outside, right? How has this shaped your business philosophy and decision making compared to a VC-backed company?
So for us, profit is the core. We are Baniyas, like how Baniyas are. Gujaratis, Baniyas, exactly. For us, everything comes down to profit. For every decision that we make also. Yeah, exactly. So I'll give you one small, example from a transport point of view as well. There are companies, that transport companies as well in India, like national companies also, who are our direct competitors. They look at so if I were to further bifurcate transportation also, there's full truckload and there's part truckload.
Correct.
Full truckload FTL means that there's only one consignment in the entire truckload.
Correct,
So if you are shipping a truck from say Bombay to Bangalore, for example, you would have a FTL load, so I'll only ship one consignment in the entire truck,
Correct.
basically. And part truckload means it's a hub and spoke model. That
Correct.
means there are multiple shipments or multiple
multiple
consignments
brands
of
or multiple
exactly
companies are
in
shipping.
one
Yeah, yeah.
container body. So what other companies do, they look at the profitability from a truck point of view. Ki my truck cost is from say Bombay to Bangalore,
Hmm.
is say 70,000 rupees one way. They will see कि मुझे अगर
1 लाख
70
रुपए का आना चाहिए या जो भी है.
yeah, so if you're making 75,000 rupees also, you are making 5,000 rupees ka profit, gross
Correct,
profit
on that
behind
truck.
the truck. What we do at VTrans is that we look at per shipment. Ki if you're having 5 shipments in a truck, wo shipment pe what is the profitability? Forget about the truck cost.
Okay.
We go one step further also. If I'm charging you 20,000 rupees for a X cargo from Bombay to Bangalore, if I'm charging someone else, say 40,000 rupees, in the same truck, that I'm trying to mix the load in that. I will look at what is the profitability per LR
Shipment,
or
yeah.
per shipment, basically.
Ah.
Yeah, in that sense.
Got it.
So we don't want to only make our trucks being run profitably. We also
Every
want
shipment becomes profitable.
every shipment should be profitable in that sense,
Correct.
So for us, because it's a bootstrap company, because it's a hard-earned money that we have put over the years,
Hmm.
profitability is the most important thing. We might grow organically in that sense. We don't look at inorganic growth in our company.
Hmm.
We don't look at any possible M&As. We not looked at anything as of now.
Yeah.
In future, we don't know what might happen. But
Correct.
at least for the time being, we want to grow organically because India is a very rewarding industry to be in right now.
Yeah.
The way we look at it in our boardroom as well is when we all meet, when the second and third generation meet up, we want to grow double the size of Indian economy. If India is going at 7% GDP, right now,
Yeah.
that means there's a scope of transport industry to grow at 14%. Why?
Got it.
जब आप इंडिया में बना रहे हो, when you're manufacturing in India, that has a direct impact on the GDP, right?
Correct.
Because what gets manufactured, what gets consumed is the GDP,
yeah.
correct? Base of it.
Correct.
जब आप कुछ इंडिया में बना रहे हो, you are having raw materials being transported to the factory. That's one leg of transportation. When the good has been made into a finished good,
yeah.
again you're transporting that.
Warehouse to the
correct.
warehouse.
So that's again a further leg of transportation, which is secondary distribution, for example. So we'll have a direct scope of doing inwards
2x.
for the 2x.
Inward and outward.
Outward, exactly. So we should be targeting growing double of that, basically. Anything less than 14% is something which, that means we're not doing our jobs well.
And
basically.
maybe with D2C or e-commerce, it becomes 3x.
3x,
That's from
exactly.
the warehouse to the customer.
Final
home.
customer and doing returns also for them.
And doing return. Maybe
Yeah.
4x then.
4x probably. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So all those things are very much linked. That's a very good, I think, example or explanation
Yeah.
that you've given how it can grow 2x. or
Exactly,
3x.
exactly.
Makes sense. So, sustainability is the new buzzword in logistics, right? What practical steps is VTrans really taking to build a greener supply chain?
So it's a very big, it's a very big buzzword for sure, like where
And a
every
very big
industry,
responsibility. Kind
absolutely,
of,
absolutely. So even for us also, we work with 1 lakh clients, on a regular basis.
Wow.
These would be 1 lakh businesses. Could be our retail clients who come on our branch and do the shipment on ad hoc basis, or could be our contractual clients as well. With our clients who are multinationals or Indian multinationals as well, they are all asking us for our ESG score as well, because they also want to publish it into their annual reports, or they also are the different stakeholders whom they also
They have to
answerable.
report,
Ki which kind of vendors are you working with also? Are they sustainable as well? To talk to you about say EVs, to put it that way, because that is a direct link for us as well,
Yeah,
in
for
that sense.
logistics, yeah.
Because logistics is a very high pollutant industry,
Correct.
unfortunately, in
Correct.
that sense. We've not seen a much innovation in the EV fleet, basically,
Okay.
in the electric vehicle space, I would say.
Okay.
When I say that, it's still a far-fetched goal for any of our transport companies, because we are seeing a good innovation happening and a good disruption happening in the three-wheeler space and a LCV space. LCV would be a lower container vehicles, basically, lower commercial vehicles,
Lower
basically.
commercial,
Correct. So in that space, we are seeing good economies of scale add up and seeing good benefits also. But in a large container bodies, which would be a line haul vehicles, which would be a 32 feet, 40 feet container bodies. There are electric vehicles coming up right now as well, but it's not feasible because of the lack of charging infrastructure, the lack of electric vehicle, EV infrastructure, being supportive to us to, deploy a fleet of these EV vehicles. So as of now, we are not seeing any direct, impact yet. But again, having said that, there is a good future for sure. That's 100% that, we are definitely very positive
to
and
do
very
that.
opportunistic also about that aspect. So in the coming years, definitely we'd want to partner with such startups as well,
Correct.
who can give us some hands-on solution also, basically. So we are deploying some, electric vehicle last mile vehicles as well, basically. We are deploying some electric vehicle LCVs also and partnering with some startups as well who are giving us some good EV solutions
EV
at a
solutions.
competitive rate also, because it
Correct.
all comes down to commercials.
Correct.
If we are charging a customer 2 rupees extra per kg, they will definitely not pay us. They will say, we don't care about an EV, that's a good thing that you want to do, but it should not impact their PNL, correct? Because transportation and logistics is still a cost center.
Yeah,
basically.
it's a cost center for
Yeah.
any business.
For any business. So they might be happy, ki, okay, chalo, you are doing something good for the environment, you are giving a sustainable solution.
It does not matter.
It does not matter if it's not cost viable for them.
Correct. Makes sense. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What are the major trends shaping the future of logistics industry in India?
Major trends, if I were to put it that way, quick commerce is the new buzzword for sure, in that sense, So, quick commerce right now in India has grown up at least 5x, in the last 2 to 3 years, I would say. It's poised to grow at approximately $20 billion in the next 2 years from now. It's as per the report today, published in the newspaper, that it's growing at a CAGR of say 75 to 80% right now. So less than 2 years, it's doubling down basically in that sense. So.
Yeah.
Last mile fulfillment would be the next big thing in the logistics basically, because it's still a very unorganized sector. Even within the last mile landscape, there are still a lot of local transporters or local truck owners, who are still running the show right now. And for logistics or for e-commerce or quick commerce to really scale up, they would need good partners who are organized partners as well, who can really support in terms of, delivering their SLAs, which is a service level agreement. If the shipment has to be delivered to the end customer in say 2 hours or same day, you would need those kind of partners as well, to run their fleet optimally, efficiently as well, and to promise their SLAs, like I said, to the same day deliveries. That's one part of it. Other part of it, the future of logistics, the way I look at it, is to also do some data forecasting as well, to
Okay.
use AI as well in the software side of things basically.
Okay.
If we can partner with a company like say Adidas or a company like say Skechers, for example, and help them also forecast their demands in the coming future. Basically, supposing right now they are seeing a lot of consolidation or a lot of orders coming from say tier 1 and tier 2 cities, but if we as logistics partners or solution providers have a certain softwares in place as well, who can do a lot of number crunching, data analysis, use SQL kind of softwares as well, and tell them, ki boss, we are seeing a good trend coming from a city like Guwahati, for example, or a city like say Chandigarh or Surat, for example. Why don't we partner with you, do a small pilot, set up a small micro warehouse in Guwahati, Surat, and say Chandigarh, for example, or Ludhiana, for example, and we do same day, next day fulfillment for all the end customers or platforms in these cities.
Yeah.
It can be a good use case for them as well, basically. So we can also be a growth partner as a logistics industry, can be a growth partner with these companies using some software and giving them the benefits,
Okay.
in terms of doing data forecasting for them and trying to build upon that as well.
Is this where you have also partnered with a startup called Zippy? To make sure that you all are also participating in this future trend, which is the quick commerce?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main reason for us to partner with Zippy also, so I'll give you a backstory. A year back, I was looking to start something in the family business as well, in the D2C space, as to how I can, start a small startup, I would say, within the family business, into solving D2C.
Which would be revolving around logistics, but of
Yeah,
course,
exactly. Which would be revolving around logistics and giving solutions to startups, from a logistics point of view.
Okay.
So I spoke to a couple of people also, one of them being Arjun Vaidya and Akash Anand, and they both connected me to Madhav, which is the founder of Zippy.
Who connected us?
Yeah, who connected us in the end, yeah. So they said, you look at Zippy also, and rather than starting something on your own, you'll be burning a lot of money firstly. The cash realization will happen at least 3 years later, if not sooner, in that sense. Why don't you invest that money into some emerging quick logistics company and double down on that and, join hands together and grow the businesses, together in that sense.
Yeah.
So that, happened where I connected with Madhav, and fortunately it all worked out very well for both of us. And right now we're building a new product called QCF, which is called Quick Commerce Fulfillment.
Okay.
And what we're doing in QCF is we are partnering with different brands, startups and legacy brands as well, who are sellers on these platforms like Blinkit, Zepto, Instamart, Flipkart, and
Got it.
other platforms basically. And we are delivering the POs which they get from these platforms on same day basis basically. So that's something which is we are kind of proud of, because we scaled up really well in the last couple of months, and we are very hopeful to scale this business up to different geographies of India.
Yeah.
Right now we are live in 3 locations, which is Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, and planning to scale up to at least 10
Different
cities by the end of this
Got
year.
it. Got it. Yeah, so I think that is where the future is.
Yeah, for sure.
Got it. So if quick commerce is doubling down, right, every 2 years or every year, as you said, probably less than a year, it is
Yeah.
taking to double. Do you see it making traditional retail obsolete?
That's a very, catch-22 situation in a way. So I've spoken to lots of clients, over the last 6 months, I would say, who are in the D2C space or who are
Traditional retail.
Yeah, traditional retail space as well. From the likes of Marico to the likes of Whole Truth, or say a company like Urban Platter as well, which are startups but at a growth stage at the same time. They said offline kiranas will never perish. They were so sure about that fact, because I'll give you an example as well. So I spoke to this company called DOMS, which is a leading stationery company in India.
Okay.
They're doing a business of approximately 3,000 crore, having a market cap of 15,000 crore.
Okay.
So-
Listed company.
Listed company, yeah.
DOMS.
DOMS, yeah.
Okay.
So I spoke to the CFO of DOMS as well, and what he said is, one thing where offline has a bigger, advantage over these startups or bigger
D2C
than
brands.
D2C brands, or even these platforms as well. So where the kiranas or these offline channels, win the war is they know the preferences of the customer. They know exactly what kind of customers are coming to their shops. They know the spending patterns. They know what is actually working in the industry as well, basically. So basically, if you were to go to a shopkeeper right now who is selling DOMS pencils right now,
Okay.
okay, the shopkeeper would know what is trending right now, what color of pencil, what is the feature in that
And
pencil.
you would
Does
offer
the
that
pencil-
only to that.
Yeah, you'll offer that to the the
Right,
client.
yeah.
If the shopkeeper knows that pencil with the eraser on the top is selling more than traditional pencil, so the shopkeeper knows a lot more about his product, in the sense DOMS product, or say any other product
any other
in that
product
sense,
that he's selling.
compared to a category manager in Zepto, Instamart, Blinkit in that sense, because they are looking from a data point of view. And they don't have time to go to every shopkeeper and understand the trends, what's happening on the actual shop floor. So a shopkeeper or a kirana store in that sense, has a lot of insights in that sense, and now they also becoming smart. They are also trying to integrate themselves on WhatsApp, basically, and possibly deliver the products to the end customer in their locality on same day basis, basically.
Correct.
Which is typically what a quick commerce platform would do
commerce is
anywhere
doing,
right
yeah.
now, in that sense. So they are saying definitely is not going anywhere, but the share of quick commerce, e-commerce
Is
is definitely
increasing.
growing at the same time. To add to it, I'll give you one small anecdote, basically, is the current per capita GDP in India is at $2,500 per person, of
Per
course,
person.
It's poised to grow at $10,000 per capita in the next 5 to 10 years from now. That means by 2030, by 2035, Indians will have 3 times more money in their wallet, basically, compared to what they have right now.
Yeah, spending
It's
power will increase,
Will
of
increase.
course.
It's something what happened in China 30 years back, basically. So once people will get that much money, in their wallet, that means the consumption will definitely go up.
Correct.
Especially after COVID, what's happened is Indians, which was more of a savings
Saving.
mindset. Now they are saying, let's, also
Enjoy and spend and
exactly.
consume. Yeah.
Let's live a fulfilling life at the same time, in that
Correct.
sense. So once that will happen, basically, the spending will definitely increase. So coming to that question, how I'm able to link these two things is e-commerce, quick commerce will grow because spending itna बढ़ रहा है in the market. Kirana will definitely stay.
Correct.
At the same time. So both will coexist, and e-commerce, quick commerce will definitely grow a lot more, in terms of the percentage growth compared to offline. But offline is here to stay for sure.
Got it.
So-
Got it. All right. What's the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make when launching a new product or a brand that you've seen in your journey?
So the biggest mistake I've seen, as an investor also into startups, I've seen a lot of founders or entrepreneurs make is they are obsessed with the solution, not with the problem. they start off their startup or their journey or the business basically looking
Yeah.
at what's happening, finding gaps also in the industry or in the market, you know, in general. Once they identify the gap, then they focus, the all energy obsession comes in towards a solution basically.
On the product.
Not sorry,
On the product.
on the product,
Yeah.
exactly, or the software or whatever,
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And they fizzle out as per what they're actually trying to solve at the same time. So as per my first hand experience, you know, in dealing with these startups, founders, and even like, you know, my peers as well, you know, who are having their own businesses at the same time, they lose focus from the problem and they just obsess over solution and not focus on what the problems are actually lying in the industry or on the ground level as well, basically. So that's the biggest mistake I've seen most of these founders and entrepreneurs make, is they double down on the solution and try to improve the solution but not focus on the problem and see, you know, what actually, you know, the customers are facing even after getting the solution of theirs, basically. Talking to the end customers or, you know, the vendors and suppliers also is as insightful as focusing on the solution, I would say, if not more.
And I think what happens is with this particular mindset, what founders have, they find it very difficult to pivot when the time comes that, okay, you need to pivot. And maybe if that solution is not working, they've become so obsessed and emotionally attached to that solution
Yeah.
or their own product.
Yeah.
Of course, they treat it as their own baby and stuff like
Correct,
that.
correct.
Mindset still
Yeah.
works. It becomes very difficult to pivot.
Exactly.
But the market is demanding that you need to pivot.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's where the dilemma happens, that whether the startup will survive or not.
Plus, there's also added pressure from the investors as well, because
Yeah.
they have quarterly calls with investors.
Correct.
As per how the entire quarter went, what is the focus for the next couple of quarters and all.
Correct.
Once they're committed a certain vision to the investors as well, then for them to also keep on changing and pivoting also gets challenging, because as an
Correct.
investor you would be like, "Ki boss, he said he'll be doing solution A, now he's talking about solution D, which might be practical, but then from an investor point of
He
view
might
you
be
also
there.
lose confidence, you know, ki boss
बार
he's-
बार क्यों change कर
बार क्यों change कर रहा है, you know,
Correct.
in that sense.
Correct. Got it. Can you name 5 business categories where you see high potential for building a profitable company?
Across India, across industries,
India.
you mean?
Yeah.
I would say defense definitely is one for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, given the vision of the government also to be more self-reliant, Atmanirbhar as well.
Yeah.
Especially the entire geopolitical situations
Correct.
also around India.
We need that also.
We need that for sure, you know, in that sense. So defense is something for sure. I'm seeing a good traction in IT manufacturing as well. Especially, you know, with the tariff situation around the world as well. And not only quoting on that particular situation, but also around the fact that India is now emerging as a manufacturing hub as well, in general. So auto manufacturing, IT manufacturing, electronics and everything,
Correct.
India is
Anything
doubling down as well.
manufacturing.
Yeah, exactly. Now India wants to...
Manufacturing 2.0 needs to come
Absolutely,
in India.
absolutely. So that's one. Also in terms of manufacturing semiconductor chips as well, basically.
True.
That's something
True.
we have seen unprecedented investments coming in, you know, right
Correct.
now in the states of Gujarat, Tamil Nadu,
True.
Karnataka. So we are seeing a good investment coming. So manufacturing of electronics, IT hardware, defense, semiconductor, of course, is something I'm very bullish on in general. In
Got
that
it.
sense.
Got it.
Yeah, coupled with that, there are service sectors as well. Could be like a logistics industry in general. Could be in terms of IT software as well, you know, in general. So that's an industry which is definitely going to be there. You
Correct.
Know? Yeah. So that's
Correct.
an evergreen industry also. And even education I'm seeing, you know. I'm seeing a good demand of higher education and quality education also in general in India. India is the youngest country in the world, you know.
Yeah.
Having a population of 1 billion under the age of 35 years. Basically, we need better education as well, you know. There's a saturation of public education or government education in that sense. There's not much quality education available amongst the private schools in
Correct.
general. There are very great,
Very good private schools.
yeah, there are good colleges, schools, universities, but we need a lot more investment and more focus on the education aspect as well. Again, why I'm saying this is because in China, what happened in 1970s, they started focusing on primary education also. They tried to improve the quality of primary education.
Okay.
That led to good skill sets, you know, that led to the Chinese population being very skillful also in that sense, basically.
At early
At an
on in
early,
their life.
at an early stage, yeah.
Correct.
And whereas India focused on tertiary education. So IITs and the Chinese education started at the same time. When it's a Chinese education, the focus on primary education. So India is focused on building great IITs, which is of course a good thing. We need that as a country. But China focused on building great primary education. basically. So
So
now
at a
we
school
need
level
to
only that nurturing is so strong that they become skillful.
Exactly. And here, because our people were not that skilled, so whenever they went to an IIT, for them to really, get the best out of that course or out of the curriculum was difficult because unko sikhai nahi gaya tha, as to how to apply the brain in the best way
It
possible.
was all bookish and very
Exactly.
theoretical.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
According to me, two sectors which I feel, which could be very fast booming in India. One is data center business. Any business that is having, any company which is into data centers and
Yeah.
building data centers for the cloud storage, etc., for
Absolutely.
servers and all that.
Yeah.
Huge business.
Absolutely.
And yesterday only, I read two things back to back on data center. One is Nikhil Kamat's post on LinkedIn,
Okay.
where he mentioned about data centers and how it consumes electricity and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And there's so much investment happening there. And second is Jitendra Kapoor, the actor.
Yeah.
He sold his
Correct.
2-acre
Ancestral
land or
property. Yeah.
worth 855 crores to NTT, which is the data center company.
So they'll be constructing data centers?
They'll be making data centers in that and
Okay.
giving it on rent to,
Wow.
of course, to software companies, etc., to
Yeah.
put their storage on the cloud.
Yeah.
So that is what they are doing.
Absolutely.
And second, I feel is anything to do with water. So I believe in the next 5 to 7 years, water will become the new data.
Okay.
Data became the new
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
Water will become the new data.
Okay.
Because of the
Okay.
scarcity.
Scarcity of it.
And
Correct.
anything to do with water, whether it is a premium packaged water or water treatment plants or
Yeah.
something like that,
Correct.
I think there will be a lot of capital and investments
Absolutely.
and money to be made there.
Absolutely. Also because of the fact that there's climate change, which is a
Climate
real thing.
change,
It is a real thing.
And it'll be a
People
big-
argue towards it.
It will be a pure supply-demand situation, a pure economic situation.
100%.
Supply will reduce because of whatever things that are happening,
Yeah.
and demand is going to increase.
Yeah. Correct.
So I think that is a good play that will
Absolutely.
happen, these two.
Also to add to it, I just forgot, even space tech also is going to be the
Space
next
tech,
frontier
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
government is seeing good success also in terms of the rockets and spaceships that have been launched into space, achieving those missions also at the same time. We saw it with Chandrayaan
Yeah.
recently, when the spaceship landed on the south pole of the moon, basically. It was a big success
Big
all over the
success,
world.
yes.
India was the first country to achieve that feat.
Yes.
Now with that, of course, government will double down on the privatization as well, of space. So
Correct.
that can be a big industry as well, in general. That linking it, space tech acting as a support system to a lot of other ancillary businesses, which could be a GPS
will.
navigation,
It will.
could be precision farming also at the same time, drones being used, being linked to the spaceships and satellites,
Correct.
basically. Lower Earth orbit satellites, basically.
Correct.
So yeah.
Interesting. I think we came up with 7
industries.
sectors
So I think
which are new.
yeah. So I think the bottom line is India is on
India
the
is
growth
on the
trajectory,
growth trajectory,
for
yeah.
sure.
So VTrans is an unfunded company, right? But you help startups with funds and you invest in startups. So when did you start your startup journey, investment journey, and how have you evolved as an investor?
So I've started my investment journey back in 2019,
Okay.
when I was 23, 24 years old,
Okay.
and started with a few angel networking firms.
Okay.
If I can name, then we have
Yeah.
Mumbai Angels as one of them, where I was working also. I was interning with Mumbai
Oh,
Angels
okay.
earlier, and then I
Okay.
ended up becoming a member as well.
Okay.
So I also got some inspiration from my family as well, basically. From my sister-in-law, who was also working in Mumbai Angels and tried to also
What's her
follow
name?
up. Her name is Pearl Shah.
Okay.
So also following up with her investments and also gave me a knack of investments into the startup ecosystem. Yeah.
Correct.
So what happened is I started working in Mumbai Angels, and that gave me the insights as to how the entire funding happens, how the entire funding takes place for a startup. What are the pros and cons of, raising a fund? How does the entire back end, DD
What's the entire
happens?
journey?
Entire journey of investments for sure.
Correct.
So I started in 2019 with 2 investments back to back. One was into a space tech company called Dhruva Space, which is one of India's oldest space tech startup. We invested at a valuation of 25 crores,
Nice.
and right now they're at 1,000 crore plus valuation.
Yeah.
So it's at a fast growing stage right now, based out of Hyderabad. Another company was Big Bang Boom Solutions. It's called BBBS, basically. So it's into defense tech. So they also raised funds from Mumbai Angels, and we are one of the investors with them. And we raised a few millions of dollars at a 50 crore valuation, and right now they also at north of 1,000 crore valuation right now.
So Dhruva and BBB, you all both are next targets on this podcast.
Absolutely. We'd love to connect
if
you.
you all are going to listen and watch
We'd
this.
love to connect you for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it also went to an edtech startup as well, which is also at a growth stage right now. With the entire edtech bubble also that burst,
Correct.
a couple of years
But
back.
they're doing fairly
They're
well.
still surviving and they're still EBITDA positive at the same time.
Nice.
And then I've invested in Zippy again, which you very well know about, and also invested in a agricultural drone startup called Garuda Aerospace.
Yeah.
So they also
That's
had
also become very large.
they also become very large. They have closed Series B right now, and they are also at a good phase right now because of the disruption in the agri-tech space as well.
Correct.
In that sense. Along with that, coupled with that, also in the defense space as well, where drones are also being used
Correct.
for the defense industry.
Correct. No, interesting. How have you evolved? What is your any mistakes in your investments, and then now how do you see yourself as an investor today versus 5 years, 6 years back?
Fortunately, there's not been any mistakes that I can think about. I've been fortunate about
Very selective.
very selective.
Good.
Yeah. So fortunately, all the startups that I've done, all the startup investments that I've done so far have been fruitful. So put it that way, I've not had any learnings per se. Fortunately, unfortunately, because I'd want to get some learnings also,
Yeah.
so that I don't make the same mistakes again.
Correct.
But the way I look at startup investments is the founder. It all comes down to the founder's conviction, the founder's knowledge and know-how about the product or the service that he's out there in the market for. So it all comes down to the founder and the team, of course.
Correct.
Basically, how well the team is, how good they are, how hands-on they are as well, basically. Because idea has no value. Idea is like probably a penny. Everyone has a penny in the world, basically, right? It all comes down to what you do with the idea. How good is the execution at the same point in time. That works for all businesses in general. In that sense.
Correct.
So first, founders, it's all about the execution capabilities and their understanding about the market. Now, space tech back in the day was a very unheard industry. Basically, it was at a very nascent
Very
stage.
nascent, yeah.
And that point in time, it wasn't even privatized. So
Correct.
when we invested in Dhruva Space, the space industry was all within ISRO, in that sense. And these are all, incubated in and around ISRO, basically.
Okay.
So we had invested with the hope of Indian government privatizing the space industry and having the startups and companies found space tech companies in general. So when we invested, just a year later, government privatized the space industry, which was a big boost for these companies. Now it all comes down to the founders and team. So Sanjay is one of the founders of Dhruva Space. So it all came down to him and his team as to how they pivoted and how they, rode the wave, of growth,
Correct.
basically, and how they evolved also as a company. So founder is by far the biggest, pillar of a startup success. Yeah.
All right.
And also one more thing I'll tell you, when I invest in a startup, I look at two things primarily: the founder and his conviction and his team and his vision for
Correct.
sure. And second thing is, can that startup be a top 10 startups in India in that category?
Okay.
That's, of course, it doesn't happen over time, but if you're able to convince yourself and have that vision, that if I'm investing in as a XYZ startup, can that startup be a leader or at least a top 10 startup
Yeah.
in that particular industry? Fortunately for me, all the
All of
four
them.
startups which I've invested in a couple of more.
And they all are unique.
They're
I
all
think you've
unique, in
invested
that
some
sense.
new categories,
Yeah.
category creators,
Exactly.
new sectors being born because of
Absolutely.
those companies,
Yeah.
and not high competition.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of competition. out
Exactly.
there.
They're disruptors in
They're
their own way.
disruptors in their own way.
And there are high entries of barrier also.
Yeah, high
In
entry
that
is-
sense.
Yeah. True.
So yeah.
Hi everyone, a quick shout out to our amazing sponsors and partners who make this show Level Up possible. First off, No Filter Juice, which is your daily dose of pure, unfiltered goodness with 100% real fruit juice, zero added sugar, no preservatives, and no artificial concentrates. Every sip is packed with authentic flavor and nutrients. Plus, it's served in eco-friendly glass bottles. Good for you and good for the planet, starting at just Rs 159. No Filter is the healthiest way to fuel your day. Click on this link below to purchase your bottle now. Our second sponsor is Titus Footwear. It is a brand built on legacy, quality, and innovation. From sturdy work boots to stylish sandals and cozy slippers, Titus has something for everyone in the family. Especially if you are a child going to school, this is a brand known for its footwear for school children. Affordable, durable, and always in style. Titus lets you walk with confidence starting at just Rs 299. Click on the link below to purchase your shoes now. I would like to thank our growth partner Growth OS and our venue partner Let's Work.
So entrepreneurship journey is a very tough one, right? It takes tolls on people's health, founders' health. What is it that you guys are doing, especially you? What are you doing because you are running a 2,000 crore company? What do you do to stay mentally, physically, emotionally fit?
So I really believe in mental wellness and physical well-being as well. So there's something called Vipassana which I had done, couple of years back. It is one of the oldest meditation techniques started by Gautam Buddha. In the sense, that's the earliest we have known, as to who the person or the from where it has all started out, basically.
Yeah.
So there's a quote in Vipassana quoted by Gautam Buddha himself, which says, this too shall pass.
Okay.
What this quote means, this too shall pass, is just to see things as it is, and nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary.
Correct.
So when you do Vipassana as well, basically, you go inside your body, you look and feel, or maybe you just feel the sensations in your body as well. You go through every cell in your body, and we have trillions of cells in our body, which every second are rejuvenating.
Correct.
Basically. So what this means is, sometimes you feel very happy about things, there's dopamine being released in your brain. Sometimes you feel very frustrated, angry, excited as well, basically. So what Vipassana does is, it's a control mechanism, basically. So what this means is, whatever things
Whatever thinking or you're going through,
So whatever sensations you have in your body, don't be too attached to it, basically.
Yeah.
Because everything that is there is all temporary in the same.
It's all temporary. It's gonna go.
It's all gonna go. Exactly.
Yeah, correct.
So when you have that thing ingrained in your mind, you kind of attain a sense of peace and tranquility
at what you are, where you are, how you are.
Exactly.
And you will focus on your action.
Yeah, exactly. Plus also, before we start any board meeting, in a family business at VTrans, whether it's a core meeting amongst the board members or with the senior folks in the business as well, my uncle, who is the CMD of our company, he mandatorily does a 2-minute meditation.
Nice.
So before we start, and most meetings are happening in the morning. So that's when the brain is the most active anyway. So we start with a 1 or 2 minute meditation where we are just shutting our eyes and just, focusing on our breath, basically. Because after we're done with the meditation, our brain has more capability
Clarity.
and absorbing, capabilities in general, to absorb more knowledge and what's happening, So for us to absorb more knowledge, to be more, reactive as well, to be more reactive in that sense.
Correct.
So that's something is very important. And also we have a family constitution in the business, in a family business. Now family constitution acts as a SHA or a family constitution document as a whole.
Correct.
These are nothing but guidelines, to put it in a very simplistic way. These are guidelines which every family member who's a part of the family has to follow. To give you a small example, the second generation has to do a full body health checkup at least twice a year.
Nice.
And for third generation, for our generation, we have to do it once a year. So we have tied up with a couple of best labs as well in India, and we do a regular body checkup as well. And that's been monitored by our group HR as well, because they're responsible, in terms of the entire well-being of the organization as well.
Correct.
So that if anything happens or anything is alarming also, amongst the directors or the senior folks or senior managers of our company, it should be mitigated in some way or the other.
Correct.
Basically,
Correct.
And a funny thing that I will also share to add to it is that we also have a policy in the family constitution of no family members flying in the same flight. Just to add to it is that we recently went to Europe. We took a family vacation to Europe, and all of us, like our entire family, traveled in 3 different flights. So I was flying separately, my parents were flying separately, and my brother and his wife and the kid were flying separately. We reached Scotland separately. We moved out of London, came to India separately. Because we just have these family constitutions. That also means that we really value the lives of not only the directors or our managers. We also have an insurance policy for our entire staff at VTrans. We have more than 5,000 people and drivers working for us. We do a daily health checkup we do a monthly health checkup for our drivers,
And
because
plus
we are
there's
always
insurance for all.
there's insurance for all, and we have monthly health camps as well, where we do the eye test, their basic heart test as well. That
Correct.
happens, of course, periodically, not that often. But eye checkup and the dental checkup as well, So all these basic hygiene parameters
Very
that we
good.
need to monitor, we do it for our own drivers every now and then, because they are the feet on the street basically.
Nice.
And for them, they need to be as healthy or
And
as vigilant.
they need to be stress free. Okay, whatever is
Absolutely.
there, the company where I'm working will take care of it.
Absolutely.
And then they can work, in a very diligent, positive, and give their 100% to do whatever job that they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we also being from the Jain community as well. So
Yeah.
you also being a Jain yourself, we really value every human life, every
Correct.
cell for that matter. We go to the minutest part of the minutest living organism in this entire world, right? So we really believe in Jeev Daya as well.
Jeev Daya, yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
that is something. It's also a core for us in the family business.
No, very, very interesting. That's really good.
Yes.
This is something new that I've learned, and it's really interesting. Let's go to the last section, which is the fun rapid fire round, right? First question.
It's not a very tough rapid
No,
fire,
no,
right? Like
not
what we
very.
see, in other talk shows and all, where there's
Nothing that
controversy
can
being created.
get you into controversy.
Okay.
And I think in our entrepreneurship world, there is no such thing as
Yeah,
it's all
absolutely.
marketing.
Absolutely.
But okay, let's go to the first one. If you could bust one myth about the logistics industry, what would it be?
One myth about the logistics industry is that the manufacturing or the clients, see logistics as a cost center. They're obsessed about cutting down our logistics costs, to improve their P&L. But we are actually growth drivers, basically. Without logistics, you can't really move your product from one point to another point in general. So that's a myth, They still see us as a cost center, as a baggage, basically, where they can cut corners, basically. But we are here to actually, help them
Add
grow
value
at the
and
same
help
time.
them grow.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. What's the most old school practice you still believe in, despite all the tech hype?
One of the, can you just repeat again?
What's the most old school practice that you still believe in, despite all the tech hype that is there?
I will be a little philosophical over here, and to answer your question, I would say karam karte raho, phal ki chinta mat karo. Be consistent, And when I say consistent, also know what's happening in the today's world as well, in the tech world, in the non-tech world as well. So that is a timeless, quote or a phrase basically.
Correct.
Which we all still believe in. Just keep on working hard and
Working,
hustling basically,
yeah.
and results will come in for sure.
Makes sense. Very interesting. Who is the business person you admire the most?
So Ratan Tata is someone, and my grandfather. These two would be the business leaders, I would say, whom I admire the most, basically. In my
What is your
life.
grandfather's name?
His name is Vishanji Shah.
Vishnu?
Vasanji Shah.
Vasanji Shah.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's still.
No, he passed away in 2009. So it's been a while since he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So he was the pioneer
Pioneer.
along with his brothers who started the company, basically.
Okay.
So yeah.
Got it.
And we've known, firsthand, growing up, we've known
Yeah,
how much
okay.
hard work, blood and sweat they've put in, really building up the business to where it is right now. And it's our duty to, further carry forward the legacy and to expand to different geographies and horizons. So yeah.
Interesting. I think wonderful conversation. Got to learn a lot about how to take a family business ahead as a third gen. What are the new age industry sectors that are really coming? What are you looking at as growth? For your investment or in general also. Really good understanding of how to really blend new age blood, new age thought and thinking with an old school legacy business so that it can really grow fast, right? So thanks a lot, Jay, for coming up.
Thank you so
on
much, Devansh,
Level
for
Up.
having me. It was a pleasure, being on the podcast, and wishing you all the success and, hope you, grow this podcast even bigger and
Thank
have
you,
more
thank
and
you.
better people than me also, I would say.
Thank
and,
you.
grow your business, so
No,
Godspeed
thanks
to
a
you.
Thank you. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
so much.